Shalom. I'd like to start out by giving all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the Great Millstone, and Shalom to the elect of Israel. This is Thamayim in Atlanta, and I was listening to one of the heads of the Great Millstone Atlanta camps, Aratazah, on the GMS Ironclad Truth channel, and he was going into the topic of how the small hats, or the 1948'ers, do not match the prophecies of the Israelites returning to the land of Israel. And got some inspiration from that, and I would like to go into the prophecies that the small hats actually do match, because they do match prophecies, but they're all left-hand prophecies of the people that would pretend to be the true people of the Lord, the true Israelites, but they don't even call themselves that, because they know they're not, and they even call themselves ishes, or the first part but plus the ish, which means to be like, but they're not the actual people of the Lord. So just to start it out, we understand that the Deuteronomy curses in Deuteronomy 28 from verse 15 on down, those are the curses that the Lord's people would be under all the way until Yahweh Shai returns, which it tells you in Daniel that, I think it's Daniel 7th chapter, possibly 8, but I'm pretty sure it's 7, and it tells you that all of Israel has sinned, therefore we are under the curses, the Mosaic curses. And then you have to go all the way to Revelation. At the end of Revelation, it says, and there will be no more curse. So therefore the people, the true people of the Lord, are under the Deuteronomy curses. And a part of that is this here in Jeremiah 17:4. And it says, and thou, even thyself, shalt discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee, and I will cause thee to serve thine enemies in the land which thou knowest not, for ye have kindled a fire in mine anger, which shall burn forever. And so the Lord stripped the Israelites of their actual heritage. This goes into the falling away that's spoken of in 2 Thessalonians. And he took away their heritage, but while the heritage was taken away, there were another people who would continue with that heritage, or at least think they're continuing with it. And so we've got Lamentations 5:2. It says, our inheritance is turned to strangers. Going back to Jeremiah 17:4, that inheritance is being the Lord's people, the Israelites, Yashar Allah, he is Prince of the power, the Lord's children, because the king's children would be princes. It says our inheritance is turned to strangers, our houses to aliens. And the small hatters are these aliens. They are the people that are claiming to be the people of the Lord, but they are not the people. They are imposters. They're pretending to be the people. And so this is where you get to these scriptures like this in Revelation 3:9. It says, behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I will make them to come and worship before thy feet, and to know that I have loved thee. Slovakia. But this is where you get this from, because it's these aliens pretending to be Israelites, but they're really of the synagogue of Satan. They're Satan's people, which who else would do that besides Satan's people to completely what do they call it? Identity fraud. They took someone else's heritage and they're claiming to be it. This is the synagogue of Satan. These so-called, or these 1948'ers, the small hats. They stole our identity. They actually sponsored the slave trade. They're the ones who owned all the boats, and they had a large part in holding slaves as well. But these are the people that are called the aliens in Lamentations 5 and 2. They're pretending to be us, but they're not, and they have a heavy, heavy price to pay for that. But some of the things that it says, the prophecies that they actually do match, are here, all in the scriptures. It says, this is Isaiah 26 and 10. Let favor be showed to the wicked, because they are Edomites, and the Edomites are the wicked within the scriptures, according to Malachi 1 and 4. It says, let favor be showed to the wicked, yet will he not learn righteousness. And so they have the Lord's favor right now. They had the blessing because this is the time of Esau's blessing. And so they're wealthy. They own most of the industries, especially when you get into the banking industry, the music, entertainment industry. They own Hollywood and run Hollywood. They own the media, which has allowed them to control this narrative and push out that they actually are the Lord's people. But right here it's showing that the Lord's people would have favor showed to them. But at the same time, or not that the Lord's people, but these aliens that were spoken of in Lamentations 5 and 2, they would have favor showed to them. Slovakia, I misspoke there. But the Lord's people would be under the curses. And so there's another people that are claiming to be the Lord's people, and they're actually going to have favor showed to them during these times, because this is not the kingdom of heaven. Because the kingdom of heaven is the time in which the Lord's people would actually return into the land. Until then, they would be under the curses. But during that time, the wicked are going to have favor showed to them. It says, yet will he not learn righteousness. And they're in the land, and they're doing all sorts of wickedness. Everything they do is backwards from what the scriptures, the Bible actually says. Like it says not to pray with your head covered, but they wear small hats. Hence the name small hatters. In the land of uprightness will he deal unjustly, and will not behold the majesty of the Lord Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai. And they're in the land. They have a giant festival in Tel Aviv, and they call it Pink City. They have kosher pork. They're in war constantly, and are basically genociding the Palestinians. They're killing them constantly, and just being unjust people. And just to show that, just another scripture showing that they would have favor showed to them. This is Psalm 73 and 3. For I was envious at the foolish when I saw the prosperity of the wicked. And so the wicked's in this prosperous state. They're wealthy right now. They're in a position to be envied if you didn't know their latter end. Verse 4, for there are no bands in their death, but their strength is firm. They are not in trouble as other men, neither are they plagued like other men. And that's favor being showed to them. Therefore pride compasseth them about as a chain, violence covereth them as a garment. Their eyes stand out with fatness, because fatness signifies you're being in a prosperous position, because you can eat and actually get fat, and you're not lean. They have more than heart could wish. They're in a better position than the Israelites, and that throws off a lot of people, because you think that the Lord's people would be in the best positions, but they're actually under the curses. And then the people that the Lord hates, you would think they'd be in the lowest of positions, but at this point in time, they're in the highest of positions, because we're in a upside down state. In Isaiah 24, it tells you that the Lord has flipped it upside down. And then I think it says it in Ezekiel as well, how you're turning of things upside down, because the turning of things upside down was all done through the small hatters and through the Edomites, turning everything into a backward state of saying what's bad, they're saying it's actually good. For example, the LGBT things and feminism, and like putting the woman above the man. That is, they're saying that what the Lord said was good is actually an evil, and what he said was evil is actually a good. They flipped everything, and they're in the best of positions as of right now. And even right now, it's not so good for them. They're being called out for it. Thus, we have this video even, and all the men crying for the abominations thereof. This is Ezekiel 36 and 1. Also, thou son of man, prophesy unto the mountains of Israel, the mountains being the leadership, the government, and say, you mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord, Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai. Thus saith the Lord power, because the enemy hath said against you, the enemy being the small hatters and all of Idumea, the Edomites, the self-proclaimed white people, but specifically the 1948'ers here. Aha! And who says that? They say that. That's one of their catchphrases. Even the ancient high places are ours in possession. The ancient high places being starting with the land of Israel, but even them calling themselves the Ish, what they do call themselves. They're being in a high place, an ancient high place. It says, therefore, prophesy and say, thus saith the Lord power, because they have made you desolate and swallowed you up on every side, that ye might be a possession unto the residue of the heathen. And when were the 1948'ers ever a possession unto the heathen? When did that happen? And ye are taken up in the lips of talkers, and are an infamy of the people. Therefore, ye mountains of Israel, hear the word of the Lord power. Thus saith the Lord power to the mountains, and to the hills, and to the rivers, and to the valleys, to the desolate waters, and to the cities that are forsaken, which became a prey and derision to the residue of the heathen that are round about. Therefore, thus saith the Lord power, surely in the fire of my jealousy have I spoken against the residue of the heathen, and against all Idumea. So right there, it is calling them out by name, because that is their origin. That's who they are. They are the Edomites. Idumea is just a Greek way of saying Edom, and Esau is Edom. I think that's in Genesis 26, where it tells you that. No, Genesis 28, Salakia, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart. And so, who's in the land currently? Because the true Israelites do not return to the land until the end times, until the end of days. And they've been there for 70 plus years, enjoying the land, but they're not the true people. It says, which have appointed my land into their possession with the joy of all their heart, with despiteful minds to cast it out for a prey. They messed up. They're going to have to pay for everything they've done. And just to confirm that they would have to be Idumea, let's go to 2nd Esdras 6 and 7. It says, then answered I and said, what shall be the parting asunder of the times? Or when shall the end of the first and the beginning of it that followeth? And he said unto me, from Abraham unto Isaac, when Jacob and Esau were born of him, Jacob's hand held first the hill of Esau. And Esau would have, or it's signifying Jacob taking down Esau. For Esau is the end of the world. And so the people that are going to have the most influence, the most power, the most favor, right before the changing of worlds, is going to be Esau. It says, for Esau is the end of the world. That's who. Those are the people that are there. Those are the people that are influencing the world currently. Those are the people running the world. And Jacob is the beginning of it that followeth. So we haven't had World War III yet. We haven't had the Lord return yet. Yahushua has not returned yet. This is not the kingdom of heaven. It is Esau's kingdom, but it's not the kingdom of heaven, because the prophecies tell you how the kingdom of heaven will be, and this is not it. Therefore, this is Esau's world. We're still in Esau's world. That's why it's so polluted and defiled, and so much violence and war is going on, because Esau would be running a polluted and defiled world. After the Lord's return, that is when Jacob's world will begin. The Lord's world. There's no Yahushua, therefore this is not the kingdom of heaven. The Messiah would have returned, and there would be no more war. This is Isaiah 2 and 1. The word that Isaiah the son of Amos saw concerning Judah and Jerusalem. Judah signifying the southern kingdom, and Jerusalem signifying the northern kingdom. And they were broken apart, and they wouldn't come back together until Ezekiel 37, or basically right before the end comes. That's the Great Awakening, because as we talked about in Jeremiah 17:4, they were broken apart, and they also lost their heritage. Their inheritance was taken away from them. So they weren't being called Judah or Jerusalem or Israel, Israelites. They lost it, and that happened during the slave trade in which the Small Hatters sponsored. And speaking of, going back to Isaiah 2:1, where are the other tribes? Because this is showing you that the tribes would be coming together, they'd have a great awakening, and then the end would come, and then they'd be set back in the land. But you'd have all 12 tribes, and these people just basically claim to be of Judah or of Levi, as they say. Verse 2, and it shall come to pass in the last days, showing the last days, 70 years ago, when the Balfour Declaration was declared. We're still here. What were they doing? Who are they? And it shall come to pass in the last days that the mountain of the Lord Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shai's house shall be established in the top of the mountains. It's in his rulership will be established over every other rulership within the earth, because he's coming to pull down all power, rule, and authority, and shall be exalted above the hills, and all nations shall flow unto it. And so is everybody actually listening to the Israelis right now? And are all nations flowing unto it, as in going there to learn from them, to try to be like them? No, that's not happening. Verse 3, and many people shall go and say, come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord Yahweh Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, to the house of the power of Jacob, and he will teach us of his ways, and we will walk in his paths. And there's no one doing that currently, except for a few Christians, but they're just as deceived as the Small Hatters and the rest of the world. But people aren't doing that. Everybody will be seeking after the ways of the Israelites once the kingdom is established. For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and they're all going to be following the law. There's not going to be any of the abominations within the earth that are happening now. There's not going to be the pollution that's happening now, because that would be breaking the law. And the general defilement, it's going to be a completely new order. And the word of the Lord from Jerusalem. It's not where the world is ran from currently. Yeah, they secretly run it from there, but there's no reason, once the kingdom of heaven is truly established, it won't be a secret. And he shall judge among the nations, and shall rebuke many people, and they shall beat their swords into plowshares, and their spears into pruning hooks. Nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war any more. And the people, the nations, beaten their swords into plowshares and their spears into pruning hooks. That wording is very similar to what's said in Joel, the 3rd chapter, as in there's not going to be any more war. But Joel, the 3rd chapter, has to happen before this happens, because it says they will beat their plowshares into swords and their pruning hooks into spears. But this is showing the reverse of that. And World War III, the war to end all wars, which is spoken of in Joel 3, this has not happened yet. They tried to call World War II that, but there's war immediately after and during, because Russia during World War II with the U.S. became enemies with the U.S. They and that's the how NATO was formed in the first place, to go against Russia. And then there's the Korean War and the Vietnam War and countless wars since then. But it says, nation shall not lift up sword against nation, neither shall they learn war anymore. That was not, the Balfour Declaration was not the fulfillment of prophecy. It was only left-hand prophecy. And Lord willing, you can see that from this lesson. Lord willing, it was edifying. The Small Hatters, the 1948ers, are not the people. They are the Edomites, the Idumeans. And to be even more specific, they are Amalek, which is where you get the slang term from about them from, thinking of the end of Amalek. But Lord willing, that was edifying. I'd like to give all glory, praise, and honor to Yahweh Bahasham, Yahweh Shai Bahasham, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the elders and apostles of the great millstone, and shalom to the elect of Israel. Shalom.